Good day. Good day, my friends. Good day. I would like to talk to you about something which is a subject of fascination to me, and I trust it is of fascination to you, and that is this notion, first of all, of China. Let me ask you a few questions. Where do you get your information regarding China? Regarding the history of China, the background, if you will, of China, the historical notes of China. Where do you get this information, I ask you? Where is it that you provide specifically your basis of knowledge for that? I want to ask you some questions. And I realize that people later on will be listening to various podcasts of this on Spotify or Apple or what have you. So my first question is, and this is important, where do you get your knowledge? What provides the consolidation or the primary target of your focus? Someone answers college. That's not good. That is not good. I don't know what that means, but it's very good. Where do you get your WION, WION News? It's very good, by the way. Someone says internet. The internet. Can you be more specific? Books. The library. Things like that. Yeah. Where do you get books? We're not getting to where I want to, and with all due respect, most people have not even cracked a book. And what book are you reading? Specifically, what is the focus? What do you want to know about China? What is it? How do you think? I'm curious as to your, in essence, your epistemology. How do you know what you know? How do you get into this? And this is not meant to be, sarcastic or rude. It's a very simple question. And I first love to sit back and ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? What do I want to understand? If you want to ask, for example, what does a Chinese person feel about China? Is that accurate? Is that a good way to start? Is it important to find out what Chinese people feel about China? Is that a good? It depends which Chinese. Lynn's Warriors official mug, by the way, on sale. People who have been there doesn't really help. I have been places before. I have been to other, and I've got a better kind of an understanding. That's like me saying, I know all about your family because I went to your home for Thanksgiving and I saw how you interacted. So I know about your family. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have a better understanding. But what is it? How do you look at this? How do you look at any event that's happening? Let's take the way most people do when they watch television news. And I happen to listen very quickly because it's the only thing I have even remotely looked to regarding Fox News. That is the only, let me just say something to you. Fox News, the first 5 minutes of the Tucker Carlson broadcast to see what he's talking about and what the take is. That's it. Do I learn about China? No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have an idea of which frame of reference. Now, let me ask you something. This is the second question. By what frame of reference or relative to what? What? What do you think? Our good friend Liz writes, you told us to turn off cable news, so everything I get is from you. Okay, very good. Thank you. I want to teach you more, not the information, but how it is to approach this. And the first key is we must understand how the world works. And in order for us to understand this, you must remove yourself from the involvement in this. You must become dispassionate. Let me stop right there. Let me tell you, today's going to be really good. And it's not going to be something that you're going to get with podcasts with Kanye West storming out. A waste of time cannot better be explained or explicated than to see that. That's all I want to say. But I want to show something to you first. And as you know, I have been, one of our great sponsors is My Patriot Supply. This is the one that I wanted more than anything. I love concepts. I love a concept. I love to sell something that almost sells itself, dare I say. And there's this one that I've been talking to you about, and that's the notion of storing food for emergencies. And lo and behold, there was a very interesting piece from a fellow who happened to be his name's Michael Smith. And he is a North Asian correspondent for the Australian Financial Review based in Tokyo and author of The Last Correspondent. And he put up, in fact, I just go to my Twitter, which is very good, by the way, at Lionel Media, and he writes, quote, oops, hang on a second. I want you to read this specifically. This is so good. He says, there was a notice. He shows this official document. Notice from Shanghai's Huangpu district government suggesting residents prepare 60 days of food and essentials in case of a lockdown. This is right now. U.S. Embassy in China is telling its citizens they're to stockpile 2 weeks of food, water, and medicines. This is going on right now. This is in a country that is, in many respects, extremely modern, despite what you might think, telling its people 60 days. 60 days. Now, what I did was, I said stockpiling food. That could never happen here. The necessity of such, where is this? The necessity of such. Our stores will always be open, right? We are the United States of America, a country immune and bulletproof from this draconian governmental terror, right? Wrong. This is going on right now. They say 60 days food. I'm never going to be one of these people who believes in being a naysayer. There were things that people, they come out and everything is the end of the world. Everything is the end of the world. It would be like a doctor telling you, you're going to get cancer. I said, well, you might get cancer, but this is a little bit, you're going to die. I said, well, we all are going to die. So I'm not one of those. I'm not doing that. But what I am telling you and what I have said to you specifically, repeatedly, without surcease, without any kind, is that My Patriot Supply, this is not a joke. This is not something, this is not anything that you could perhaps, that might be considered, well, not life or death. This is life or death. I'm putting it right here. This is the link. This is preparewithlionel.com. I'm so sold on this. It's not even funny. And everywhere I go, there it is. China, 60 days. How do you do that? Don't take a chance. Don't sit back, Grizzly Adams, and think all of a sudden, Jeremiah Johnson, you're going to live off the land with your cane pole and your banana chips, or somehow through an MRE that you've got extra in your tackle box from when you go fishing with Uncle Dave. I've never seen anything like it. People are so frightened by the notion of it that they will dismiss it. They'll say, no, that's, well, I'll 90 days. My Patriot Supply, provides 90 days guaranteed. This is per person with a $250 savings. Best sale since 2019. This isn't kidding around. Preparewithlionel.com. Yet again, another example. Here it is. Here is what it is. This is happening. Preparewithlionel.com. Not kidding around. We're not kidding around. Food, water, energy. That's it. Now, let's go back to this. Let me ask you a question. And listen to me very carefully. And I'm going to see exactly what you're made of. Let me ask you a very simple question. Is China evil? CCP, Communist China, People's Republic, whatever. Is China evil? Is Xi Jinping evil? This is a very, very simple question. What do you say? This starts us off right off the bat. Okay? Imagine you're in a graduate symposium. One of my favorites is John Mearsheimer from University of Chicago, and others, and I love to listen to scholars speak. And the question is very simply this. Is this an evil regime? An evil regime with evil plans? Is Marxism evil? Are Marxists, Marxians, evil people, dastards? Are these people evil who have as a desire on their part the destruction, the corruption, the enslavement of the human spirit, the confinement of individuals, the elimination of liberty? Is this what you do? You must start off with that, because you have got to figure this thing out. You have got to understand this. It's like when you're doing criminal law. Are there people who are evil? Are burglars evil? Well, sometimes. Are thieves evil? Not necessarily. Are dope peddlers evil? No. Are serial killers? Yes. Yes, absolutely. There's no accidental, like, well, conditions. No. So it does help sometimes. Is cancer evil? Cancer doesn't have an evil. Cancer just moves. Is China a cancer? If you think this, if you are starting off with the premise that you are dealing with a people who, unlike all human beings, want nothing but enslavement and the control, the draconian control of people, no happiness, no whatever. If that's what you want, if that's what you believe, based upon this idea of evil, we have nothing to say. We're not going to get very far. We're just not. You will be laughed out of any symposium, because they will look at you and say, would you like me to talk about your country? Would you like me to talk? Well, wait. And then we're off to the races. You see what happens? Have you seen the pictures? Have you seen the videos of people protesting, screaming, and yelling, and hooting, and hollering, and holding up blank pieces of paper? Not good. Not good in this meme war. Would you like me to show you pictures of the United States during the George Floyd BLM Antifa riots? May I show you those? Yes. Is that emblematic of what? What does that represent? May I show you the Edmund Pettus Bridge videos and movies and newsreels regarding the civil rights movement? May I show you that? Would you like to see that? May I show you that? I can do that if you'd like. What does that tell you? Are we evil? Are we evil? Look at what's happening. Look what's going on now. Is the left evil? Would you like me to show you pictures of a trans performer at a grade school? And let me ask you, does this represent the Democratic Party? So what I'm saying is, you must disabuse yourself of these ideas about they're evil and they're Do you understand what an authoritarian government is and how some people like it? Do you remember when they talked about Saddam Hussein, one of my great friends, a pal, who used to, one time, I'll never forget, he turned to me one time and he said, this is very interesting, he says, have you ever been to Baghdad? I say, no. He showed me one time his passport. His passport could not be, there was no more room for any more stamps, and it was just incredible. And he asked the question, have you been to Baghdad? I said, no. He said, well, let me explain. And he goes, it's beautiful people, they're wonderful people, and they enjoy it. And Saddam Hussein one time said, if you remove me, you're going to need 7 of me. Now, there are certain people who have different ways and different means of control and the like. So the first rule is, please disabuse yourself. Please disconnect. Please untether yourself from these ideas of evil, freedom, and words that mean a lot to you, but to a lot of other folks, they mean nothing. That's number one, okay? That's number one. Number 2, how much of world histories do you know? How much do you know? How much? And what is your personality? Are you someone who never believes anything? Are you incapable of seeing something, ever of believing? Do you think that everything is a work, everything is a scam, everything is some kind of a, dare I say, a conspiracy to mislead you? Is there ever anything? Or do you have any observational powers whatsoever? I think you probably do. I think you do. I think you do. Do you think that everything is some kind of a... If you do, you're not going to be good for this. You have to look at this very simply, the way a doctor looks at cancer or nutrition or exercise or what have you. You just look to it. You see, what you do, and social media encourage it, is to put a face to it and a motivation and an anger. It's one of those things. If you sat down with somebody from the CCP and you could deal with them, what do you think you would say? What would you say? What would you say? What would you say? Would you say, listen, you have just got to stop this. You have got to just stop. You cannot. And again, once they would say, excuse me, you're the United States? Yes. You see, the world is anarchic. And when you say that to people, they immediately get very upset. They think, what? Anarchy? So it's the world is anarchic versus hierarchical. Governments, as Mearsheimer says, like pool billiard balls, are on a stage, and each one, there's nothing above that. They're on the table, and there's nothing above that. There's no super governmental, which is what one world order and new world order and that sort of thing wants. But the nations are spread apart. And the only thing that separates one from the other is economic power, military power, influence, or whatever it is. But we are anarchic. There is no world hierarchy. We have this wonderful place of these, and we celebrate the divisions with all kinds of colors and lands and that sort of thing. But understand this notion of this governance, how it works, is very interesting. And it starts off regionally, and you must look at things historically. And the first thing you have to understand is that every place, every country wants, first and foremost, survival. It's the most important thing in the world, survival. You can talk about Marx, see this. No, it's survival. That's the first thing. You want there to be survival. That's number one. Number two, every country has some form of military wherewithal. The question is how much, how important, how critical, we don't know. But every country has something. Everybody is immediately looking around people around it. That's the first. In terms of history, we then go back to something which is even more important. Human nature is such that you never want to contain yourself. And see, government power is like a cancer. Cancer never wants to remain in situ. It doesn't want to just stay localized. It wants to spread through angiogenesis, through metastasis. It just wants to move. It doesn't want to just stay there. What's the point? It'll basically, it also really doesn't want to kill the host necessarily. It just wants to kind of, do as much damage, but move on and transform. Go west, young man. It's exactly what it is. It's what we do. Let me also say, which is the most difficult thing for people to do, and this may occur in your own particular lives. It may be sometimes when you ever do an assessment of your own life. We have to understand something, that if we were in another country looking at the United States, we would not like us in many instances. We come across and have come across to other people as a bully, as this hegemon that just goes where it wants to go and says, screw you. We even had the Monroe Doctrine, which is one of the greatest, most, if you think about it, this idea that you are not going to move into the West. And that is it. One of the bases for our getting involved in Russia, aside from the fact that it was looking at the idea of a military base in Cienfuegos in Cuba, was the fact that it violated the Monroe Doctrine. We don't like people doing it. One of the reasons also that pushed our involvement in World War I was when Germany was trying to enlist Mexico in the particular fray, and it said, if you help us and we win, we'll help you get some of your territory back. This sets the tone. Look at our CIA. Oh my God. Look at Iran, Mossadegh. We have done such a job on Iran. They're crazy. They're nuts. They're dangerous. They're evil. Okay. As soon as I hear this, I know it's not true. Because Persians, many of them will say, we are a theocratic society. We do things differently than you do, and we don't particularly care about the way you care about us. Persians are a beautiful people with a history that is just, when you have ancient histories. Okay, so right off the bat, before I would allow you to be involved in any kind of negotiation, we would have to, again, I keep using the word, but disabuse you, decondition, deprogram you from the way you think. You believe in this notion called good and evil. This Manichaean, good versus evil, left versus right, apodictic, up and down, black and white, that's what you believe in. That is your take. That's what you believe. You believe this. You say it. And you've said it for so long. And you've heard it from Ronald Reagan and others, that people say that we are not necessarily just a strong country, but we are here conceived of by God. God is an American. And to be more specific, God is a Republican. And people say this and they believe it with 100% a belief system. I don't believe that for a moment. Now, here is the question. What are we going to do with China? Someone writes, theocracies are bad. No, they're not. Theocracies are not bad. You hear that? You hear when somebody says, no, they're not. No, they're not. You have, if you believe in a democracy, which we are not, we are a republic, but if you believe in the idea of somebody being able to determine what they want, there are some folks who say, much like the Amish and the Mennonites and others, like to live not necessarily in worlds that are controlled by the Bible, but they do not care for the secular world. There are Orthodox Jews who believe in Talmudic laws and actually involve themselves with legal systems that don't necessarily incorporate our own. You see, you have to lose this chauvinism, this idea that, no, that's this. You see, you have to stop thinking like an American. I know that may sound just inconceivable, but step back and look at it objectively. When you look at a dog behavior, don't try to anticipate what the dog is thinking. Don't think about this. And if you really want to go back and look at things, what I find the most fascinating is how we use the wrong terms. Left and right, conservative, liberal, progressive, I don't know what, woke versus what have you. I don't understand that. I don't see how we think like that, but we do. We love in this apodictic, this black and white, Manichaean, good versus evil. This is good, this is not. These people, also, they're backwards. They're not very sophisticated. They don't really, they don't see our version of this. Now, when it comes to China, would you like to look at it from the viewpoint of what? Would you want to be just a scholar? That's one thing. You want to just look at, that's the most fun. That's when you're not taking sides, you're just looking at this. You're saying, it's like, this is good, this is bad. Keep in mind that in 2049, it will be the centenary of the revolution. Look what China did in 100 years with 1.5 billion people. I mean, it is incredible. You can't even imagine how this thing works. Totalitarian? Absolutely. Xi Jinping will look at you specifically and will say, there is no room. We are not going to do perestroika. We are not going to do anything that you might feel familiar with, like a Gorbachev. There is no Gorbachev in China. It does not exist. These are stalwarts. They believe in a system that you may have a hard time understanding, but they believe in a system that is there's no comparison here. Xi Jinping, please look at his background. Please look at what happened to his family, how they were ostracized and eliminated from the public concern and imprisoned, and how he became steadfast. He didn't turn his back on the party. No, look at him now. When they voted for him, he's now given this term of leader for life or whatever, but when they voted for him, there was only one vote against his candidacy, and it was from him. He voted against himself symbolically. This is something we do not understand. We have no concept of this. So what happens is, if you go to social media, what you do is you'll get a very bare bones, kind of a John Wayne version of this. The good guy, the bad guy, the white hats, the black hats, the evil, the despotic, that kind of thing. And people will just get all upset. Tucker Carlson will do a wonderful job saying, and can you believe what Tim Cook did? No, Tucker. Oh, you mean the story that was in the news? Yes. Well, why don't you tell us again? Well, it seems that Apple decided to disable its Wi-Fi, its AirDrop, that would allow people to send information to each other in the event of Wi-Fi breakdown or the lack of Wi-Fi and that sort of thing too. And it would be critical during times of revolution and times of strife for people to be able to communicate with each other. And Apple suspended that, removed it at the behest of the Chinese government, who said, if you want to do business, by the way, we're making at Foxconn, we're making your phones. If you want to do business here, that's the only way we'll do it. Because Huawei is just saying, And anybody who's ever been a part of Huawei or has had it said the phones are superior. I don't know. So anyway, so that's the issue. So what do you do? Well, you gnash your teeth. You chomp. Actually, you champ at the bit. You wring your hands, and you say, "You, Tim Cook, you evil." Okay, that's good. Right. Very easy to understand. You NBA, you sellouts, you. Okay, very good, very good. It's easy. Let's yell at them. Right. Well, what does this mean? And what would you like to happen? Well, we don't have an answer for this. We just want to put together a 1 to 2 minute segment as part of our show package between bringing on irrelevant commentators that have nothing to do. And before we talk about Kanye West and Tim Pool and other luminaries, we don't have a lot of time. This is as close as we're going to get. We want to rile the masses up. Well, would you like to discuss the implications of this? Absolutely not. Why? Our audience doesn't understand this. What exactly do you suspect? Now, remember, this is from the viewpoint of what exactly? Let me ask you a question. And here's my question, John. I'm going to ask you because I haven't asked you this. Why do you care? Or why should we care? Or what business is it of ours if Apple decides to disable a particular function in China? Very simple question. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? I'm curious. What would it matter to you? Is it important to you? Should we go there and say, "Hey, Tim Pool"? I'm not Tim Pool. I keep saying Tim Cook, Tim Pool. Tim Cook from Apple. Hey, you better go there and do what? What exactly? Well, you better not. Either you pull out. Either you pull out of China completely, Apple, okay, or you'd better tell that Xi Jinping, "Listen, buddy. If you want our cell phones," which apparently they don't, but if you want our cell phones, you've got to take it with these devices. Okay. You think that's going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think anybody can tell Mr. Cook from Apple, "You're going to do this"? And if Google decides to go into or is in some country and some despotic leader says to Google, hey, do you if you Google want to be in our country, you better be able to allow us, the government, to find people who are reactionaries and people who are, who pose a threat, terrorists and the like. You better let us do that. You are going to let us do that, aren't you? Aren't you? Well, so the first question is, and I would love somebody to ask Mr. Tucker Carlson, what do you think, what would you do if you were in charge of Apple right now? First of all, they would fire you immediately. To whom do you owe your duty, your shareholders? Okay. And they're going to say, okay, fine. Do you know in China, TikTok is allowed, there's strict parental controls. I think kids are only allowed 40 minutes, I think, a day. And the information has to be China related and China history. They don't even let their own children watch TikTok. So the other day, it was a big deal. People said, hey, I think that maybe these Chinese companies like TikTok are basically trying to steal our information and might actually be deleterious and harmful to our society. Really? Do you really think that? Yes, we do. Okay. That's interesting to note. Interesting. What would you like us to do? What? Do you want to ban TikTok in this country? Is that a good thing to do? Do you demand? What do you want? What do you want? Same thing with Qatar. Qatar, how dare you have a soccer team in a country, or a game, I should say FIFA, in a country that limits LGBT rights, or in fact, not even limits. There are no rights. How dare you? They did this years ago with apartheid. When the great Stevie Van Zandt did, we're not going to play Sun City. Remember that one? That one basically destroyed his career. Do you remember this? So where do we go? Where is this? Does anybody talk about this? Of course not. That would never play on cable news, which is why I just... Do you understand? That's not the issue. The issue is not what do we do. The issue is by what authority would we do that? By what authority would any government say that? What do we do? And the question also is, which is even more inconceivable, can a theocratic country that does not believe in, let's say, gay rights or adultery or scantily clad women or whatever, should they be able to have morality police? I don't want to live there. I think that's, for me personally, that's absurd. But what if other people say, you know what, we're all for that? You want to what? You want to what? Yes, we are. We believe in stoning, let's say, for adultery. Wait a minute. Let's assume that. I think that's absurd. It's absurd. I think LGBT rights are absurd. To arrest people, to subject people to what? And what are we going to do? Have a court to determine if you were gay? It's absurd. I don't want to live near that. That's not the issue. The issue is if a country does, what do you do? Does anybody live in a country, or excuse me, a county or a state that doesn't allow drinking on Sunday? Do you live in a dry county? Do you have blue laws? Anyone? Of course. Of course. So that's the first one. So the first thing you're going to do is, if you sat down with Mr. Cook from Apple, you would say, you know what, President Biden or whomever, I'd love to work with you. What do you suggest that we do? I have to. We build our phones in China. At Foxconn, why do you do that? Well, it's very interesting. First, China will say to you, how many people do you want to work in this factory? How many? How many would you like? You say, well, how about 250,000? Would you like that? We have a 250,000 person workforce. Would you like that? And we'll have intermediate management with minimum of a master's in some type of science or technology field. Would you like that? We'll do that for you. 250,000. No labor, no shutdowns, no, don't worry about, workman's comp and all that. No problem. Each one of our workers is a college graduate. Each one. Can you do that in your country? I don't think so. Do you have enough technical schools? Because this isn't about soldering pieces. This is serious business. Do you have that? Can you compete? Nope. And this isn't about merely cheap labor, like an old Phil Knight or whatever from Nike. They would produce the shoes in Indonesia or wherever. In sweatshops, merely because the cost of labor was so low. And because there really wasn't a lot to it to build a shoe compared to a phone. Well, U.S., what have you been doing? You haven't been doing too much, have you? Well, because you never really cared about science, technology, STEAM, and that sort of thing. Science, technology, you never cared about that. You don't even have schools right now. You have, I guess, remote learning. Absenteeism is through the roof. You drop standards. You drop standards in order, in some cases, it is alleged, to encourage certain ideological positionings. You actually drop standards. for this thing called equity. We don't do that. That's why we're able to compete against you. How do you like that? Now, you're sitting across from Tim Cook. From Apple. And he says, Mr. Biden, President Biden, Mr. President, what would you like me to do? And it's not just me, it's other countries are going there as well. What would you like me to do? Tell me. And then we'll stop right there. We can go back and you can watch your TV shows and you can see, look at that. They're welding doors shut. That is true. That's what they're doing there. I guess I'm not even going to question the authenticity of that. Would you like me to show you some other videos from around the world? Would you like to see that? No. They have countries, by the way, that behead. Can you imagine that? We have countries, we have our capital punishment. We had a guy the other night who said, hey, this is clogged. Was it? I think it was recently, or maybe it was one I was reading about. Anyway, this is clogged. Hang on a second. Would you hang on a minute? Yeah, okay. We got to get can we get somebody... Can anybody know how to run this line here? Well, see, doctors don't do it because they've taken the Hippocratic Oath and therefore, of course, do no harm, plastic surgery notwithstanding. So what they do is they say, we're not going to avail ourselves and use our duties and our talents to kill anyone. So we're not going to do that. That's not up to you. In fact, there have been people on the gurney who were they themselves are drug addicts. They can find veins anywhere. They're like the best lab techs because they themselves have had to administer, drugs or what have you. So, I mean, this seems to many people barbaric. Anybody, hang on, take 5. Can we get something? Can we do a new line? Damn, we're having a hard time with this. Can we run and I know you're going to say, well, he didn't give any charity to his victim. And you're right about that. And that goes for all cases. But, so before you there's one thing about beheading, it's always effective. Always effective. Might be, believe it or not, considered kind of humane if done correctly. If you're the right swordsman. I don't want to get into this, but you see what I'm talking about? See, I'm not interested in looking at the morality of this. But what I said before was, if you go back and you see, and if you watch anything on TV, it's good for 3 days and then we forget the whole thing. We forget the whole thing. It's done. And this is the story right now. And it's to rile you up, to rouse you, to get you very upset, very angry, and then move on. And then to allow you using your social media platforms to get equally as mad. But here's the best part. What is the government doing about this? Nothing. What does the government do about anything? The Biden administration is doing a lot of stuff. What is the Republican administration or the Republican leadership? What are they promoting? I don't know. You can hear Tulsi Gabbard a lot. You want to do that Yvonne DiCarlo? Hello. That's interesting. Ask Carrie Lake how she did when you're the flavor of the month. What about that? I don't know. That bores me. I mean, I have no interest in this. I'm fascinated by what is happening to China. And I want to remove myself from this position. I want to remove myself from this world, from this place, from this. And I want to put myself in the position of looking at how things work in a very dispassionate way, the way a scholar would look, just as to what is happening. You'll never be able to understand what is happening regarding, let's say, Russia or Ukraine or any others if you don't disabuse yourself and disconnect yourself from this usual nonsense that people do. Now, let me ask you this. Has anybody discussed or have you heard anything about any kind of resolution to the issue of the Russian Ukrainian military operation. Anybody? Have you heard anything about that? No. Let me ask you, what would you suggest that we do for that? How would you like to handle that first? And the very first thing is to explain, especially if you had to go to, and whether it's a TV show, and the only person who has been the closest, I think, has been Tucker Carlson on cable news, as close to the truth. But would you like to go back to the history of what Ukraine is? And I'm talking about before during World War II, and the whole notion of, the whole notion of NATO and Soviet containment and post-Cold War. Would you like to go to that? Someone says Biden should at least apologize. Apologize for what? Not since Ukraine bombed Poland. Well, when things happen, what does they say? That the plans of war begin to collapse at the first shot. It's so interesting. People are very interested in Mr. Fuentes and Mr. Ye, as in Kanye West. And they like the idea of anti-Semitism. I called a friend of mine, he used to did a talk show, very, very popular terrestrial show. And I said, it's funny that if you really want to talk about the notion of that, could I talk to you about Stepan Bandera? Would you like to hear Ukrainian history? And he said, in essence, I don't know what you're talking about. That is not consonant with my worldview. So that's what I'm saying. And what's happening is that there needs to be something which says, ladies and gentlemen, I have been, and if you ask me, do you want me to be a Chinese scholar? We can have debates and we can talk about the history and Mao and the periods of great embarrassment from the 1840 to the 1940s. Oh, they never forgot that. Oh, my God. There was if you want me to work for the government, it's very, very simple. If I work for the United States government, my role is to remain the hegemon. I want to be the number one most powerful force on the planet today that nobody would ever even think of even getting upset. This is vis-a-vis my position working for the government. If I worked for China, which I wouldn't, but if I was Chinese and native, they would have the mirror image, the chiral opposite of that. That's what they want. They want world domination. So do we. So does everybody. Get with the program. That's what people want. I don't have any problem with that. Do you? You shouldn't. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. That's the way it goes. That's simple. But what I'm telling you now is I've devoted a piece on my private channel, LionelMedia.com, where I can go through this very, very slowly. And I can say something where I don't have to worry about people getting upset. Because when it comes to understanding this, let me give you a perfect example. I interviewed Robert McNamara. Robert McNamara, right at the time of the fog of war, said that the biggest problem that the United States had and possessed at the time was that it never understood that from the viewpoint of the Vietnamese, that the Vietnam War, the conflict, was a civil war. And it was about nationalism. That Ho Chi Minh was not a communist in this post-World War, post-Cold War, this metastatic cancer domino effect. And yes, Russia and China had helped him out, but that wasn't the goal. We had many times before that to help Ho Chi Minh out, but we turned our back on him. And that's just the way it is. The Viet Cong and the Vietnamese were defending their country. It's a very simple thing. Once I attack you and your family, that's it. That's it. The bets are off. There's nothing specific about that. And as much as I know now, I still can't figure out why we went so long for such a period of time without changing our minds, without doing anything to indicate that we made a mistake. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But that gives you an idea of that. Now, may I talk about something? Your clothing, your bed, your linens, and the like. May I introduce to you, if you have not met him, the one, the only, the inimitable, the ineffable, the sui generis, the ineluctable Mr. Mike Lindell from My Pillow. And right now, look at this. They've got the biggest bed sheet sale ever in the history of humankind. As low as $29.98. My Pillow percale sheet sets, My Slippers, overstock sales. Bible story pillows. If I had a kid right now, it'd be in Bible school, Sunday school, anything reinforcing the notion of morality and justness, absolutely. 6-piece My Pillow towel sets, $39.98. My Pillow sandals, My Pillows, the name as low as $19.98. Look, I can go on, but let me invite you. Let me tell you right now, just go. Here it is. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. I'm putting this up right now. I'm putting this up for you to take note of this. Christmas is just around the corner, and there's no better way to sell than this. Tell somebody you love them than by giving them beautiful bedspread, waffle blankets, and just the percales, the Giza. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. Or if you insist upon a telephone number, 800-645-4965. Now, my friends, do yourself a favor. Try to remove yourself from the usual scrum that is social media. It's anti-intellectual. Does you no good whatsoever. Go and listen to people who speak, dare I say more, hear me out, scholarly about it. Do not watch cable news. And most of the stuff, I'm sorry to say, most of the, well, I understand it. And I appreciate the urgency. But I'm not going to go through any names, but a lot of the stuff, the podcast, whatever, which is very, very good, by the way, it is too exaggerated. You know, the end is nigh and too Manichean for me. Because I want somebody who's very, very cool and calculated. That's how you understand the problem. And that's how you benefit. And by the way, whereas I love the idea of kumbaya, I'm an American citizen. This is my country. This is where I will always live. This is it. I want nothing but the best for us in a world that acts concomitantly and in unison with the precepts and the functionary rules and regulations of the Constitution. That's it. That simple. So, my friends, I thank you. I thank you so much, not for who you are, not for what you are, but what you appear to be, and I thank you for that. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, per usual. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thank you for your insight. And even though many of you are completely off the rails, off the charts, off the skids, off the beaten path, even though many of you are consumed by a rage and this intellectual dumpster fire, I love you anyway. I love you anyway and appreciate your verve and your excitement. Notwithstanding perhaps your patent inability to appreciate reality. But I digress. All right, my friends. Have a great and glorious day. Don't forget, preparewithlionel.com. Don't forget China. Look what they're doing. Food, start supplying, not backing up, but this has got to be so scary when your government says, get ready. 2 to 3 months of food. Wow. Could this be happening? It is happening. And MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. All right, my friends, have a great and glorious day. See you tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Ta-ta.